Hello everyone, thanks for joining me for MediaMark's weather, updating you here on my vacation, and we're going to be taking a look at our next potential tropical storm. Here's potential tropical cyclone number 4. We're watching this system as it heads towards the northwest, likely to become a tropical depression 4 and eventually our next tropical storm, which would be our D-named storm. That would be Tropical Storm Debbie. So you can see we have two distinct areas of shower and thunderstorm activity, one over the Bahamas and one over Cuba here. And just recently, we've had some showers and stronger storms fire right around the center, right over Cuba. All right, so starting off with the European model here, and we'll transition to the GFS momentarily and compare our potential tropical cyclone here, number 4. We'll be pinwheeling towards the Keys here, the Western Keys, as we head throughout Saturday. You can see the tropical moisture heading up the west coast of Florida here towards Tampa. Yeah, this system actually heading up towards potentially just under Category 1 hurricane strength. As we head throughout the weekend, here's 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, likely making landfall around the Tampa area. It could be a little bit further west or east, depending on how strong this high pressure is over Bermuda. But we do know at this point it's likely to be the west coast of Florida, Tampa area taking the biggest area of heavy rain and wind, Cape Coral all the way up to Northport and Tampa. Please stay tuned, heed those tropical storm watches and eventually warnings here. And as we head through August 5th here, Sunday morning, you can see the system trying to make it just off the coastline here. It's definitely going to be re-strengthening. We're going to keep that tropical moisture across the peninsula of Florida here and the northern Bahamas. And you can see it paralleling the coastline here as we head through August 7th and 8th. It's going to start slowing down because the steering currents become weaker. We have this energy here to the north, producing rain across parts of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. This high pressure is going to be retreating towards the northeast, so it's going to allow this system to eventually try to head up the coastline here. So we're going to be watching for this very closely. It's going to be very, very, very close here. European model wanting to take this inland at this point over North Carolina. So I'll show you the GFS. It is a bit different, but here we go. This would put a very large swath of tropical moisture well up into the northeast, mid-Atlantic, and New England here. This is August 9th, so we're going to be dealing with this system for quite some time. Here's the center of circulation coming just off the New Jersey coastline by this point. This would be heavy rain, especially to the north and east of the center here, August 10th at 8 a.m. And watch how this pinwheels right up the coastline here and makes a beeline for Nantucket here and towards Nova Scotia. So we're going to be watching this very carefully over the next several days and then hitting Halifax and parts of southern New Brunswick and eventually Newfoundland up here. So watch out. By this point, it is becoming extra tropical, but you can see the European model takes it to 986 millibars. Now, in the European model, before we head over to the GFS, the rest of the Atlantic is still looking very robust here as we head towards August 7th. You can see a very large area, tropical wave action just south of Jamaica, heading towards Nicaragua and Honduras. And look at these large tropical waves out here by the Cape Verde Islands. We're going to watch for potential development as we head towards, closer to the middle part of August. But here it is. As we head out in time, you can see the intertropical convergence zone bouncing further to the north here. We have some very strong tropical wave action out here. Any one of these this time of year can become a storm at any point. One thing to note, though, look at the cloudiness here from the Western Gulf. We could be looking at potential development here, Jamaica, Central America, and look at these waves lining up out here. Some of these actually, though, since the Bermuda high is retreating towards the northeast here, some of these could find a weakness in the subtropical ridge if they become strong enough and make their exit as a fish storm. So that's something to watch. However, this is the last frame. August 11th, you can see looking very active across the Atlantic. And before we take a look at the GFS model, don't forget, before we continue with more weather, if you love the video, smash the like button. It really does help. Question or comment to keep our weather conversation going. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, bell notification, you're alerted when I come out with every one of my weather updates. Let's continue. So our GFS model here, we're taking a look at our potential tropical cyclone as we go through this evening into the overnight. Yeah, this is where I think things could go downhill as we head throughout the day on Saturday. This paralleling the coastline. And here it is, the GFS really stomping the gas pedal here, going a little bit, ahead of guidance here by 3 or 4 hours. This is 5 a.m. on Sunday morning, August 4th, coming into Tampa Bay area. So watch out. This could be, quite some big impacts here, especially with the heavy rain, the wind. Not looking at a major hurricane here, but by any stretch of the imagination, this is something we don't really want to see. And this is going to become a trend. Now, look at the GFS wanting to take this up to hurricane strength right off the North Carolina coast. So this is something we're going to have to keep close watch on because it does, on the GFS, affect the Outer Banks with potential hurricane impacts here. So this is something that we're going to have to watch. And behind it, you can see some tropical wave action here across the Central Caribbean as we head through August 7th and out here by the Cape Verde Islands. Now watch this as we go out here in time. What does the GFS model do with this system? It does keep it off the mid-Atlantic coast for the most part here, strengthening it to a hurricane, keeping it that hurricane strength from the Outer Banks all the way here towards Nantucket. So watch out. This is going to be close, at least on this model run. And what does this mean for Nova Scotia and New Brunswick? But here it is. Wow, the GFS really has this accelerating into the westerlies by this time. So once it gets up here to Nova Scotia, it's more like an extratropical system that skims the coastline here. This is 5 a.m. August 9th, so it's really racing towards Newfoundland here. And we're going to turn our attention here on the GFS to our next potential big tropical wave moving through Jamaica. So some heavy rain and gusty winds here. And as we go out into the intertropical converted zone, you can see we have a couple wave action out here as well. So let's continue to go out here in time. There is our potential system moving out of the picture by this point, but there is our next potential tropical system showing up. This was also showing up a little bit on the European model. Here it is on the 10th, and this is, of course, the GFS, August 11th. Take this with a grain of salt because it is the GFS, literally 222 hours out, but this shows a hurricane going into the north central and western Gulf by the 13th, 14th, and then striking, as I said, take this with a grain of salt. It is interesting to look at this far out, but this does not mean that Houston, Galveston is going to be getting a major hurricane on the 14th. It's anybody's game, and who knows, we might not even have this tropical wave develop, but this is an interesting trend that the GFS has going here. And as we continue through the 14th here, we have another strong wave moving through Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada here, and then out towards the Cape Verde Islands as well. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits for this intensity analysis. You can see our potential tropical cyclone here likely becoming the next tropical storm. Yeah, this is coming up towards, say, 55 to 65 knots here. This is close to, that Category 1 status. I think it'll make it up to 55, 60 knots here. Not out of the question. Some of the models, including the ship's models, taking this up to Category 1 within 72 hours and keeping it a hurricane here. So we'll have to watch for that prospect here. Most of the models, though, keeping it a stronger tropical storm. And here we go with our dry air analysis. So here's the GFS, our latest run. You can see our system here across the Eastern Gulf making landfall in Florida over the weekend. That heading up towards the northeast, strengthening to a hurricane, according to the GFS, right off the coastline here. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on. Dry air flooding in mid layers behind it. You can see the dust out here from the Saharan dust trying to make its way westward. We also have another tropical wave behind it and another big one here south of the Cape Verde Islands. So let's continue to cruise out here in time. You can see our hurricane coming right up the coastline here and potentially into the Canadian Maritimes. So this is a trend we'll have to watch. Dry air behind this big tropical wave here towards Jamaica as we head towards the 8th and 9th. And then there it is, GFS developing that into a potential hurricane. Stay tuned. This is very far out, so please take it with a grain of salt. Do not panic yet. Look at the dust out here into the MDR. That's going to help a little bit, but still our intertropical convergence zone looks very robust as we head out in time here through mid-August. You can see, look at these big waves coming off the Cape Verde Islands areas. Very concerned about this. And then you start to see evidence of big tropical surges out of the Caribbean, across the Gulf, and up the U.S. East Coast. So here we go with the European model as we continue to go out here in time. There is our potential tropical cyclone here heading into the Eastern Gulf and Florida. And as you can see here, the European model is a bit stronger on the Saharan dust. Still have a tropical wave out here on the edge. We'll have to keep close watch on that. But as we continue to go out here in time, you can see through Tuesday, August 6th, still a tremendous amount of dust continuing here across the Caribbean. But there is our system off the southeast coast and some very big waves here coming off the Cape Verde Islands. So a little bit further out here with the European model, you can see what's going to be happening. Euro takes this much further west here, inland in the mid-Atlantic for a time, because this high pressure tries to build a little bit to the west as our Bermuda high retreats towards the Azores. So this is going to be very interesting. Please stay tuned for this as well. And then look at this big tropical wave action out here into the MDR. So some mid-layer dry air making it into the Caribbean islands here through August 12th. Caribbean here, Central America as well. Yeah, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, you're picking up an additional 30 to 60 millimeters, maybe locally higher, with our potential tropical cyclone. As we continue through time, you can see Central America just bubbling up here with heavy rain. You know, normal this time of year, we're going to be looking at 80 to as much as 125 millimeters. Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize here up to the Yucatan. We could be looking at areas of up to 2.5 to as much as 4.5 inches of rain. Here in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, yeah, this is about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Locally over 1.5 inches in some areas with that 40 to as much as 65, 70 millimeters of rainfall. The Bahamas and the Eastern Caribbean here, watch this as we go out here in time. We've got a tropical wave down by Trinidad, Tobago here, upwards of about 60, 70 millimeters of rain here, looking at about 1.5 inches, close to 2.5 inches of rain. Puerto Rico, you're getting in on the activate right around Monday, August 12th. That's where you could see upwards of, say, 40 to as much as 80 millimeters, getting up towards about 1 inch or 2 in most areas. Now, the big areas that are going to be in northern and western Bahamas here, this is where you could see about 100, 125 millimeters, 3 to as much as 4.5 inches of rain. The Turks and Caicos down here only picking up about 25 to 35 millimeters, however. Future radar here, you can get an idea of what's going to be happening with these thunderstorms as we continue through the rest of your Friday. You can see these pushing into New Jersey, parts of Delaware. The main threat, yeah, you could have some damaging wind, large hail, but the main threat here, you can see through 6 p.m. into 7 p.m., 8 p.m. is going to be that flash flooding threat, and that's going to continue into the overnight as we head into parts of western New England. Maybe some showers back here into eastern Ohio by midnight as we head on into Friday night into Saturday. And then you can see what's going to be happening. We're going to start to watch the effects from our potential tropical cyclone here for going to start to make its presence felt here in the Florida Keys and, of course, the Bahamas. Some showers and thunder showers here into southeastern Louisiana and Kansas as well. Here into Maine, we're going to continue to watch that shower and thunderstorm activity cross over into New Brunswick and Nova Scotia as we head throughout Saturday afternoon. We have a renewed chance of shower and thunderstorm activity. Now, look what's happening here in Florida. We're going to start to see that tropical cyclone by this point become a tropical storm potentially. And you can see, look at how it's going to parallel the coastline here just off the coast of Cape Coral here by 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, August 4th. And look at that. The eastern feeder bands are going to be feeding right into Cape Coral here, up towards Tampa, Northport. So please stay tuned. We're going to see how strong the storm could get, maybe going up towards 50 to as much as 65 miles per hour, maybe potentially just under Category 1 hurricane strength as this thing pinwheels north. Somewhere near Tampa, this center is going to pass in and around the Tampa area as we head through 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. You can see that progressing towards the northeast here, towards the Palm Coast area, St. Augustine, and then the last few frames you can see it trying to reemerge out here. Very little weakening as this system's going to be heading across the Florida Peninsula, and we'll be watching it up towards the Carolinas. Now let's go back As we get into Saturday, there's going to be those showers and thunderstorms forming along a frontal boundary here from the Panhandle of Florida all the way to North Carolina. Watch out. Some of these could be strong to severe and up into the Northeast as well. That flash flooding threat continuing as we head in time. You can see through 7 p.m. on Saturday, organizing especially across the lower Susquehanna River Valley, heading down all the way through the Carolinas here. Heavy rain. We're going to be watching that out ahead of our potential tropical cyclone here. And then moving into New Jersey, parts of the Hudson Valley overnight, Saturday night into early Sunday morning around 2 a.m. up towards the Capital District. So watch out. Some of these could pack a punch with a lot of heavy rain as it moves all the way up here into Maine and New Brunswick. Local equivalent precipitation totals here as we go on the European model. As you can see, just through Monday, look at the state of Florida. That's where the lion's share of the rainfall is going to be, on the order of 6 to as much as 15 inches of rain. Watch this as we go in time. Of course, up here into the Ohio Valley in the Northeast as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours, especially the first part of the weekend. And then as we get into Wednesday of next week, adding more rainfall to as much as 4 inches. Some of these areas definitely need the rain, however, but look at with our potential tropical storm here. This is going to be a massive heavy rain event here across parts of the Southeast. Let's zoom right on in. So for the Southeast here, our event with our tropical storm here, our potential tropical storm, this could be quite a major problem as we go out here in time. You can see all the way up and down the Florida coastline here, 6 to as much as 8, maybe 10 inches of rain. Some of these areas just off the coast, it's going to be very close, but would not be surprised if the storm overshoots on some of these totals. Look at parts of the Carolinas, Georgia as well, getting upwards of 6 to as much as 10 inches of rain. And then Ohio Valley and Northeast here, Eastern Great Lakes over the weekend. This is what you're looking at. 3/4 of an inch from Cleveland to Binghamton, Harrisburg over an inch. Some areas here in the purple getting over an inch. And as we add next week, the middle of next week, look what's going to be happening. We're going to be watching for the potential of that tropical cyclone maybe affecting parts of New Jersey. Look at this. If this pans out, we could be seeing 4 to 6, 7 inches of rain. Here into the red zones, we're going to be looking at a solid 2 inches over the next several days. So picking up where our future radar left off, our NAM 3 kilometer, you can see here as we head throughout the rest of the weekend into early next week, the big story is going to be what's going to be happening here with our potential tropical cyclone. Likely a tropical storm by this point. It would be named Debbie, our next named storm. And as you can see here, we're going to be looking at a really stormy week here along the East Coast. So please stay tuned. Lots of rain, lots of showers and thunderstorm activity. And we're going to watch for that prospect of a tropical storm potentially heading up towards the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, depending on how fast to the Northeast this high retreats. So please stay tuned. This could be a big problem as we head through. This is August 10th, by the way. So as we head towards, say later next week into next weekend, we could be talking about this tropical system for quite some time, actually not moving out here till the 11th. So Sunday, the 11th. So we could be looking at a prolonged period of very stormy weather. You're rewarded by a high pressure building in behind that. And as you can see, most of these storms are being forced up and over this ridge. So the big thing we're going to have to deal with here is the tropical moisture from the southeast all the way up the East Coast. But look at by the 11th here, we're already seeing the telltale signs here of tropical moisture flowing up once again into the Eastern Gulf and right up into the Carolinas. All right, Canada, do we have any chance of rain to help the wildfire situation, especially out west and in the central provinces? Not really, and we're also going to keep things dry for the most part across southeastern Canada here. The only thing we're going to look at maybe for southern New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland here is our potential tropical cyclone. So we're going to have to keep a close watch on that. But for the most part, most of these heavier systems will stay just south of the U.S.-Canadian border. Look at how dry it is here through August 6th. We get through the 7th. We do have a chance of some showers and thunder showers moving through eastern Ontario, western Quebec by the 8th here. And there it is, our potential tropical system with this stalled out frontal boundary up towards Nova Scotia and southern New Brunswick. But you can see that sweeps off towards the northeast, towards Newfoundland here. Another low hanging back. But for the most part, it looks really dry through the first couple weeks here of August. High pressure building in. A big system up here in the northern stretches of the provinces of British Columbia and Alberta, but nothing really towards the U.S.-Canadian border by this point. And as we continue to go out here in time, you can see lots of high pressure just continuing to build across southeast Canada through mid-August. So for the Canadian precipitation outlook, you're not looking at a lot here. Most of this is stuck over the United States. This is very bad news for the Canadian wildfire situation. Southeast Canada in particular becoming much drier. You have to go up here into the central provinces and northern provinces to get into any measurable rain that'll be on the order of 50 to 110 millimeters. So looking on the order of about an inch all the way up to 4 inches in these areas. But like I said, it's not going to be widespread. All right, so the Western Pacific, there is not a whole lot to talk about. We're continuing to see heavy rain here across the Philippines and Vietnam here, but China's really clearing out as well as Japan. We do have this area of low pressure we're going to watch here on the European model head westward towards Taiwan. We'll keep a very close watch on it as we continue in time. Here's the Philippines just getting socked in with continued monsoon moisture and flooding concerns. That's going to continue, but here it is. This low is just going to hang out here south of the Japanese islands here, and could it actually develop? Well, there actually is another area of low pressure that tries to form here on the area of a stalled frontal boundary. So we're going to be watching this. It's possible this could develop and head just east of Japan as the European model is indicating, and another low pressure here just south of Japan. So Japan, your typhoon season is probably going to be ramping up here shortly. And there's another potential tropical system closing in on the southern Japanese islands by August 11th. So we're going to watch this area very closely. Philippines, look at the monsoon moisture just continuing. Intertropical convergence zone continuing very readily out here as well. Now, the Eastern Pacific is really heating up here. We have an area just off the Mexican coast that could be developing, but we also have a hurricane out here, Hurricane Carlotta, really heading towards the west. It's a fish storm, potentially becoming a Category 2 storm here. But at this point, it's going to be nothing more than a problem to shipping lanes, and then our next system forming behind it here. And before we continue, don't go anywhere. I got plenty more weather for you. Take a look at these awesome maps from my affiliate.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease, or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
High temperatures here as we progress through the week. You can see here is our Saturday, August 3rd, up in the upper left-hand corner here. You can see that we're getting a little bit cool shot here with the clouds and precipitation. Upper 70s to lower 80s, eastern Great Lakes, parts of the Northeast and Appalachians here. But the heat is building here out west in the central states. 90s all the way up towards the mid-Atlantic here into Sunday, August 4th. You can see we are looking at a cool shot here across the upper Midwest. Heat continuing across the south and kind of moderately warm here into the mid to upper 80s across the Northeast. So as we get into Monday, you can start to see, look at the 60s in North Dakota. That's crazy. 70s here. And then look how quickly you get into the 90s from I-80 southward here into Tuesday. Look at this. There is that cool shot into the 70s. You know there's going to be a battleground because look, at just one state away, we're in the hundreds here in Kansas. And as we head into Wednesday here, look at this, August 7th. Wow, 70s really reigning supreme here across the northern part of the tier country here into Thursday. Look at the disparity here. 90s and 100s versus 70s to the north. The extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Dennis, Crane, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. As we get through the weekend here, showers and thunderstorms are likely Saturday once again. Some of those could be big gully washers. Flash flooding concern continuing. Sunday, we taper it down a bit. We warm those temperatures up towards 90. However, as we head into the new work week here, you can get a gist of what's going to be happening. We're going to be cooling towards the upper 70s by midweek, so still that chance of rain every day, but you know what? We'll take those cooler temperatures. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MediaMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.